The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated. Welcome back to the Nova Society, a space where dialogue deepens understanding and civic responsibility comes to life. I'm Dr. Mark Bound, joined by our regular panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon. Together, we'll unpack the stories that matter most, exploring the headlines, the history, and the big ideas shaping today's conversations. Let's dive in and hear what the panel has for us today.
Today we have a question from Tina, who writes to us from Wildwood, New Jersey. And Tina writes, "Okay, I think I'm confused, and I'm not the only one. Please, if you have any insight, what is really the status of the war with Iran? Trump says we've won. Then we are making progress. The Strait of Hormuz is open. Then maybe not so much. We are negotiating successfully. Then Iran has 5 days to agree to a deal. No boots on the ground. Then maybe boots on the ground. Meanwhile, Hegseth muddies the water even more. Iran says it's not talking with anyone, and Trump can't figure out who we are supposedly talking to since we've killed everyone. We haven't heard much from Israel, though news from there rarely helps clarify things. So I'm assuming you guys are as confused as the rest of us, but with all the mixed messages, what do you think might be happening, and where is this conflict leading?" Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tina. Mark, Scott, what do you have, or do you want me to start with?
Well, I'll just say first that I don't know that I'm confused, but I am angry. I don't think I've ever been this angry before in my life. Maybe when Trump betrayed the Kurds in, I think it was 2019. I remember I was in class talking about something else completely, and somehow that crept into my mind. And I was almost in like tears then. I was so angry. I mean, I was shouting about how dare we betray our allies in this way. But it seems to be just part for the course here. And you can't trust anything that you hear from our government right now. Pete Hegseth likes to call himself the Secretary of War. He is the Secretary of War Crimes. He is committing heinous acts in this war, has done and continues to ramp up rhetoric that is unhelpful and mean-spirited. And the last thing I'll say about it is this: there's a Wall Street Journal headline today that I think it's today. I saw it today. That I think is, I didn't click on it, but I did look at it. And it says the fog of diplomacy. And we all know the term the fog of war. We all remember, where it comes from and how it ended up being, I think, the title of the film on Robert McNamara trying to explain himself about Vietnam. The fog of war. The fog of diplomacy is really nothing that should ever happen. And we don't have diplomats. We have a real estate developer, Steve Witkoff, and we have Jared Kushner, who seems as callously devoted to his own fortune as he does to anything else in the world. And it is deeply disturbing. And I find myself like sleepless nights, basically, and walking like stressed out and angry. And that we could have put ourselves in this position. And what the hell were we thinking when we elected this guy president again after that first time?
I think the answer to that, Scott, is very simple. We weren't thinking. And all right. So Tina from Wildwood. I've been to Wildwood, New Jersey, back when I was in high school. I wonder if it's the same. Probably not, because that was 1,000 years ago. But I am disturbed to hear that Scott was almost in tears, because then I could say, I know this man, big, strong man, tears coming down his face. Sir, I don't understand. But
I believe I said almost in tears.
Almost in tears. here's the thing that I took. I was actually watching the Brits. I always watch the Brits, and I watch the Germans, and I watch the French, and everybody else. And if there's a legacy to this whole thing, and Tina, if you're confused, so is everybody else. And I liked Scott's term, the fog of diplomacy. Usually, it's the fog of war because, again, everybody presents things to their own benefit when you're in war. But the Brits were talking, and leading British conversation. If you'd never listened to it, please do. It really is insightful to what they think about what's going on over here, and they really have been focusing a lot over here. And they said, here's the most amazing thing, the legacy that we're seeing. We don't know whether it's best to trust the Americans' version or the Iranians. We are now in that level as far as whether or not the rest of the world trusts what we're saying. That the despicable, ideological, terrible regime of Iran, what's coming out of them? People are saying, well, maybe they're more credible than the Americans. That should make us all sit back and take real notice that we've actually fallen to that level. Now, we've never been above lying to the world, but everybody knows it. And in this case, we've taken it to really a new level. The Iranians basically are saying that the Americans they're negotiating with themselves. They're not negotiating with anybody. If you listen to, Trump talk about who they're negotiating with, well, who is it? He didn't know. Are they even, is it like, Bob the street vendor? Is that who you've got left? And is that who you're negotiating? Does this person have the authority to actually do something? And right now, I don't think anyone in Iran. I think Iran is on autopilot. And this is something that came out of Deutsche Welle, that the regional commanders of the military have standing orders. And until somebody is recognized as the leader, they're just going to continue doing what they've been doing. They're not going to stop. So if you're negotiating with someone, supposedly, and by the way, the Iranians are saying you're not, where is this going? And you've lost control of the situation. When Trump says, well, we killed that first group of leaders, then we killed the second group of leaders. All right, who you negotiate with? Well, I can't give you specific names. It's probably Alibaba, the camel salesman. I don't know. But does that not worry somebody when the president of the United States, who says he is involved, as is J.D. Vance, as is Marco Rubio, as is Steve Witkoff, as is Jared Kushner, as is all these people are involved, and they can't even identify who it is? It's like he was in the Oval Office doing a presser, and he said, "We got a great gift from Iran today, but I'm not going to tell you what it is."
Oh,
it's like,
what the hell?
What the hell was that all about?
Oh my! I had almost forgotten about that. I'm glad you brought that up because that is as bizarre as it gets. He got a present that shows that we're dealing with the right people. It was a really nice present, very expensive, and I can't tell you who what it is or who sent it. That is like out there.
That's next level batshit crazy.
Yeah.
That truly is. I saw that and I'm thinking, wow. You guys.
You feel like saying, and Mr. President, is the gift in the room with you now? Can you point, really crazy stuff, man.
Absolutely insane. And, now let's add to this. And this was just released out, I think either today or yesterday. 15 minutes before Donald Trump announced the idea of negotiations, 15 minutes, over $500 million was invested in oil. Oh. And once he announced it on Truth Social, and let's think about this one for a little while. I don't know about you. Do you have Truth Social, Scott?
No.
And I know Brooklyn doesn't, but Brooklyn would never. I don't either. We get our information from True Social, of which a whole bunch of us don't have access to or don't want access to. But he put this out there, but 15 minutes beforehand. And I don't know. The investors are very smart. They can be very insightful, but you got to have a little bit of insider trading knowledge on this one. Over $500 million invested in oil. And the minute it happened, oil prices dropped. Now they're probably waiting for something else to be, told something else, so that when it goes back up, and guaranteed it's going to go back up to where it was. In fact, it started to creep already. They're waiting on where they can, where the top level is, so they can, buy low, sell high. Mm-hmm. This is what we're sitting at here, people. And this is something that we really have to understand. So when you look at that, what is the value to Trump to negotiate a peace at this point in time? And if he can keep making his buddies money by making an announcement on True Social here and there and watching the stock market, which has nothing to do with logic, nothing. It has to do with feelings. And he can make that go up and down and make the rich richer, then, hey, what's the sense? And the other thing about all this, which makes me very kind of shy about saying, yeah, this is actually going on, you haven't heard a bloody word out of Israel. Netanyahu has been like, I don't know, radio silence on all of this stuff. So I don't know. I understand why you're confused, Tina, but if you look at a lot of the things going on here, the present that we can't tell you what it is. We're negotiating with people that we can't tell you who they are because we've killed everybody. And, by the way, 15 minutes before I made an announcement on True Social, somebody had $500 billion, $500 million in disposable income that they weren't afraid they were going to lose to buy up oil and watch it. I don't know. You take it from there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's
really sad. It's a really sad situation that we're like, Trump is basically Baghdad Bob with a with a financial following that rivals, John Houseman, back in those commercials.
Oh God, yeah.
Right?
We make money the old-fashioned way. We earn it.
Supposedly, he's talking to a guy named Mohammed Bagher Galibaf, and I apologize everybody for butchering that name so badly. But Galibaf is a former Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Air Force commander, and he was the mayor of Tehran, and he is now in the Revolutionary Guard and in their Congress or Parliament or whatever they call it. And he seems to be the guy that they have been talking to, although some other people there say that they're not talking to anybody. So,
yeah,
bit of a mess.
I also wanted to add, when you were talking about the present, the supposed gift, I saw part of a, I don't know, presser, whatever it's called, where Trump is playing with, I don't know, the Batwing airplane. I forget what
B-2 bomber.
Stealth B-2 bomber.
Yeah, the B-2 bomber.
Yeah, the B-2 bomber. And he's playing with it, and he's informing the listeners, the people, everyone who's standing around, that the real one is much bigger. And I thought, yeah, I understand that. I think everyone understands that the real one is much bigger than the model that you're playing with, like you're 4 years old. And no, Tina, to answer your question, I'm not confused. I expect everything that Trump says is lying and is a lie, and that he will say whatever he feels like saying to make himself look good, as we've said in this podcast before, for the next 2 or 3 minutes, and then he'll simply shift and say whatever is going to make him look good for the next few minutes. And whatever advice he's being given, that everything is really great. I mean, he's not even thinking ahead. Trump said he was going to bomb the largest electric power plant in Iran. First of all, doing so is a war crime to deprive people of their electricity. And second of all, that happens to be a nuclear run electric power plant. So if that is destroyed, obviously that has a nuclear reaction outcome. That is also a war crime, and there's a nuclear outcome to that. So, I mean, that one would assume that that is actually not going to happen. So either he doesn't know, or he is bluffing, or he's really serious about creating a nuclear outcome, which obviously the wind can blow fallout anywhere. And now apparently maybe putting troops on, is it Kyrgyz Island? Like Iran has no more bombs left. I mean, and flying over the country means that we have won the war. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. And I mean, he's clearly demented. He has dementia. And he does not think anything through, and he never has. And in his lifetime, he's been successful at it.
He never has.
But now he is in a situation that he cannot get out of, where no one else is going to come and rescue him. And he is probably listening to Hegseth and Lindsey Graham and anybody else who will say, "Oh yeah, it's fine, it's whatever."
Or Mohammed bin Salman, right?
Yeah, anybody. And he believes that he himself is the great conqueror, and he's a wartime president, and he can do whatever he wants, and there won't be any consequences, and everything will be great, and it'll be over in 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and everything will go back to normal. I mean, Trump has always managed on magical thinking, which a person can tell himself or herself anything that has no contact with reality, and that becomes true for the person. And when a person, has dementia, on top of that, the outcome is disastrous.
Yeah,
and well, he's always where we are.
I mean, generally speaking, in his life, he's gotten very lucky. But his luck may actually be running out at this point. And but here's the thing that may be most galling, and I said this a few weeks ago. Once you go in, you have to finish this. You cannot leave this regime behind the same way that he left Venezuela's regime. You know, Maduro's not there, but his regime is very much in place. And you know, we don't know what the consequences of that are because there's no reporting on it. And but we cannot do the same thing in Iran, especially with 400 kilograms of fissile material unaccounted for, and could be anywhere in this country that's 10 times as large as Texas. Just this needs to be resolved. He cannot walk away from this and say, okay, well, it's for other people to deal with it. We've got the Strait of Hormuz open. I don't until 2 weeks ago, or maybe a week ago, anybody in the United States had ever heard of the Strait of Hormuz. And now it's like, on everybody's lips all the time because you can't get away from it. But was never the objective of this war. It is a byproduct of the objectives of this war. And for him to get the strait open and say, okay, well, the strait's open, or we have control of it, or we've reached a deal with Iran to let shipping go through, including their shipping. And hardliners are saying, we need to take those tankers, the Iranian tankers, and divert them for our own purposes. Um, but that's a typical Trump thing where, there's one guy painting the wall, and then 2 feet behind him is another guy with a sledgehammer smashing the wall to pieces. And, there's no way to build a house. And he's going to do that. Here's a prediction for you, Mark. He's going to walk away and leave this thing unfinished. And he's going to walk away and say, I did my job. Now other people have to do their jobs. And if the oil can flow, but we're walking away, and the regime is more or less in place because, as you say, they knew that this could happen someday, and they've planned for it. Oh my! It is just infuriating.
And
we're going to be in Iran for a long time.
Well,
in my opinion, even if Trump does walk away, I don't believe this is winnable. In my view, this is going to be worse than Vietnam if they continue with this. This will be worse than Vietnam, worse than Iraq, worse than anything that we have seen, in my view, because there's 200,000, 300,000, whatever, Iranian Revolutionary Guards. And the farther down a person goes in the I don't know, pile of people, I don't know how to put it, but down in the layers, people are very ideologically attuned to their faith and to their to Shia Muslim or Shia I guess Shia Islam. And also what we should have learned in World War I, II, and Vietnam, and so on, is that the more bombing one does, the more people resist. And the more people tend to say, well, I may not like my leadership, but I love my country, and I don't want your leader, so I'm going to resist your bombing me, and I'm going to fight for my country, even though I don't like my leader. And so the more bombing we do, the more entrenched everything is going to become. So I don't believe that this is winnable, first of all. And I think even if Trump does walk away, I don't believe the Strait of Hormuz can be secured because the shipping lane part is only 2 miles wide, and they've already mined it. So, and the Iranians can continue to refuse to allow anyone who is allied with American interests to go through. I think they're charging something like $2 million per ship for anyone who is allied with Americans to travel through. So all they have to do is continue to refuse or charge a huge fee, and
basically what Trump has done is he's taken a regional player that was marginalized and he's made them a power player in the world.
Yeah.
He's elevated them to a point where they are now calling the shots.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's made things much
never seen anything like
worse.
this. I don't want to be a hypocrite about this. Just building on something you were saying, Brooke. In June, I was all for the Israelis killing the Khamenei. I was all for it, but that was before the people rose up against their government, protested, and that protest was brutally put down. And it maybe is 30,000 people executed. And now they don't have the will, they don't have the leadership, they don't have the capability of rising up against this government. And we've taken out the leaders, which we should have done in June. Our timing on this is all wrong. And we're going to pay a steep price for it, Americans and people around the world. We are going to pay a steep price. And here's the big reveal. And I'm not predicting this is going to happen, but would be that they've had the bomb all along. they've had nuclear capability all along, and they've kept it quiet, and they didn't want to say anything about it, but now they have it. And now what are you going to do, America? That would be
Well,
real something.
the problem, of course, is that
Well,
the individuals who tried to revolt never had any weaponry to revolt with. The ones who have the weaponry are the Revolutionary Guards. And the other thing that happened was it was probably Iran who shot an intermediate range intercontinental ballistic missile at Diego Garcia.
Yeah.
And it didn't get to its target. There were two of them.
right.
We no longer have, to my knowledge, and Russia, well, they weren't supposed to have, but I think they probably still do, that range of missile because you can put a nuclear weapon on it. But the fact that I would assume it was Iran, from what I have heard, did that is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, so
Again, a secret
they
that we didn't
have the
know about.
weapons.
Right. They have the weapon. They never disclosed that they had that weapon. They've been lying about it. And by the way, they don't need to actually have the bomb. All they need to do is talk about it. All they need to do is claim it. And who's going to call them on that? And if they say you invade our country, we're gonna lob a bomb at Europe, it'll get where it's going. We don't know where that's going to be, but somebody's going to pay that price, and it's on you for invading. And yeah, I mean, they don't have to have it, although they might. They've not been very forthright about their declarations of what they do have. And by the way, we don't listen anyway. Like, there's another aspect to this that I really find disturbing, and it's all of us. From what I understand, the Farsi term that we translate as supreme leader is nothing but president. But supreme leader sounds so much more exotic that we wanted to go and say, oh, they've got the supreme leader, But we have a supreme leader too, and he's acting more supreme every day, it seems to me. But we don't translate it that way, and we're not worried about somebody who goes around calling themselves the president of some place, right? But saying that somebody's a supreme leader, well, that must be, anointed by God or something like that, and that's a real threat. So this idea that we don't really understand their culture, we don't understand their religion, we don't understand their country, we don't understand what it's all about. And we just blundered into this thing for probably not the best of reasons. And it's galling that he's taking advantage of that by insider trading and oil trading and all that kind of stuff. He continues to monetize his presidency in ways that nobody ever would have dreamed of doing. All of that stuff is really galling. But I don't see how we can just leave it where it is now and declare victory and walk away. I didn't see it.
I don't know what he's going to do, but the Iranians are very well informed. They call it the Epstein class, and
Right.
They're very well informed, and they used to be very supportive of the United States at one time. But to put Marines or anyone on Clark Island and expect them to survive, I think, is beyond it's absolute insanity.
Well, when you listen to the pressers, and Hegseth was on there today or the other day, and he says, this is the first president had the strength to do this. And what really that translates to is this is the first president stupid enough to do this. No other president has done this because they totally understood the ramifications. They understood how difficult this would be. And, if we're looking at, how this is going to end, I don't think we're going to be there for a very, very long time. I think that we're probably going to pull out at some point in time, especially if we do put those Marines on the ground and we see some deaths coming. Trump's going to back out. He's going to do a taco. He's going to do a victory lap and basically say, "There you go. Here, now it's your problem."
Right,
but that kind of
Cuba.
Right. We'll do Cuba, which will be, oh boy, that'll be easy. But I was reading through the emails today, and it kind of goes along with this topic. And one of our listeners did ask, and it was a very specific question. That's why I didn't put it into this one. Would Iran have closed the Strait of Hormuz if only Israel had attacked? And I got thinking about that. I think they would have, because that would have really brought the entire focus back to Israel. Israel, knock it off, open up the Strait of Hormuz. If the United States was not even involved, if we, by the grace of God, had a president intelligent enough not to get involved in this, and we let the Israelis do what they were going to do, because all indications are, we don't know if it's true or not, all indications are that Israel was going to do this anyway, with or without us. Okay, all right, fine. Would Iran have closed down the Strait of Hormuz so the rest of the world would have pressured Israel? And to one of the points that Brooklyn made, yes, they're charging $1 million or $2 million for each ship. Now, oil prices may go down, just for everybody from an economic standpoint. But if you think that those shipping companies are not going to pass on that $1 million or $2 a ship to the consumer, you're out of your mind. And Iran is still exporting oil. And guess what? The Chinese are getting everything they want. So my question, and another question that was another listener, why, knowing that still there's certain ships getting out, they're not coming to the United States, why are we not blowing them up? We were happy to blow up fentanyl coming out of, Venezuela or Argentina or wherever it was coming out of. We were happy to do that. Why aren't we blowing up these tankers that they are letting out and taking away the economic benefit to Iran? And my comment to that is very, very simple. You don't mess with China's shit. They really, really get upset if you mess with their shit. And even we won't do that. So, I thought it was an interesting question. And, just to get a perspective, would they have done this? Would they have closed it up if it was only Israel?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Apparently this was always available to them, but they've never done it. Yeah. And apparently they're very well provided for. There's, in this 2-mile strip of water, they have sunk assets that they could use at any time that would completely close it off. The reason that we don't blow up the tankers that are getting out is because we are dedicated to oil. And which brings me to one of the other craziest things that's going on right now is this deal that Trump made with a French company that was building offshore windmills to provide electricity. He wants to give them $1 billion to not do that, but to take that $1 billion and then invest it in oil infrastructure in the United States. And so we're going to be more dependent on oil, not less dependent, as a result of this, which is as completely insane as anything I think I've ever heard. And he'll never stop the flow of oil because Trump is well paid by the oil companies and really wants the flow of oil to continue.
Yeah. And, it was something that Scott said at a recent, well, actually it was probably about 2 years ago when we were talking about the Rotary. And we were talking about how the lieutenant governor had come in and said that, beforehand, everybody, they're a conservative bunch, and they really are in the Spartanburg Rotary Club. They're a very conservative bunch. And everybody was complaining about, electric this, electric that, renewable energy. Oh, it's terrible, it's terrible, terrible. And then in came the lieutenant governor, who might be the next governor of South Carolina, Pam Evett. And she said, oh, the federal government gave us $26 billion to invest into renewable energy. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's all for it. And, again, one of the comments that Scott made, and this really stuck with me, and I've used it a couple of times. There was a time when people that were in the position of authority and were in industry and were in business that did not look at something as an obstacle, but instead looked at it as an opportunity. And we've stopped doing that. Make the windmills go away. why? Because we're making the elephants go crazy? I mean, or the whales or whatever, what the shit are you talking about? But we need to start getting back to that entrepreneurial spirit. If we're to have any chance to return back to the country that we used to be, and we are not even close anymore, to where somebody comes to us and says, "Oh, renewable energy, that's the future. Oh, look what oil does for us. Wars, pollution, this, that, and the other. There's money to be made in renewable energy." And somebody comes out and says, "Yeah, that's an opportunity." And I hear all the arguments. Well, the infrastructure isn't there for electric cars. Was the infrastructure there when Henry Ford pulled out the Model T? No. The infrastructure followed. Oh, and guess what? The people that built the infrastructure made money, as well as the people that made automobiles made money. So, this is an opportunity. And, but I did find the question about the Strait of Hormuz, if it was just Israel. And here's my thought on this. And I know it's not Tina's question. My thought is that I think they would have used it. Because as Scott said, this has always been a plan. If there's one thing you've got to give the Iranians, they knew that they weren't popular, and they pre-planned pretty well. Just as they've said that, a lot of these regional commanders are basically just working on orders from people that are all dead until it's decided who is going to be in charge. And I'm going to tell you right now, I see this, it's going to be the Revolutionary Guard. I honestly don't think it's going to be the civilians. And they are just working on autopilot right now. Same thing with the Strait of Hormuz. It's always been there. It's always been an option. And I think if Israel had been the only one attacking this in this war, I think they would have used the Strait of Hormuz to get the opinion of the rest of the world against Israel. It's right now, it's all against us. You don't see him blaming Israel for this, for the strait being closed. The world leaders, everybody's talking about, it's the U.S. So, again, Trump was the only president stupid enough to let Netanyahu talk him into it and make us, basically the blocker. We're the offensive line, and we're protecting the quarterback, Netanyahu, behind us from getting sacked. Here's my New York Giants football reference for the day. And that's all the time we have for today's episode. The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We want to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing team, Apple Podcasts, the largest source of podcast and music online, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your destination for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. And most importantly, we want to thank you, our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society could not be possible. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing on the platform of your choice. It's easy, it's free, and helps our channel grow. For questions or comments, you can reach us at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So on behalf of Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershworth, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power of society is knowledge. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Journal of Interdisciplinary Conflict Sciences, the JICS. This open access journal, double peer-reviewed, provides a platform for emerging scholars to publish their work and engage in meaningful dialogue across disciplines. The JICS is currently accepting article submissions on an ongoing basis and is published through the NovaWorks Scholarly Repository at Nova Southeastern University. You'll find a link to the journal in our episode description.